Hi, my name's Anna Serin, and I'm Director of Listings Development with the Canadian Securities Exchange. I am joining you for another market recap with my co-host, Bruce Campbell. Thank you for joining me, Bruce.
Yeah, it's good to be back after the longest hiatus the show's had so far.
I missed you, buddy. And of course, Bruce Campbell is with StoneCastle Investment Management. We've had a few weeks apart. I've missed you, and there's lots that happened. There's lots that we're going to break down this week. So let's get started. We're going to talk about some market volatility that we saw this week. There was a sell-off in the markets you're going to tell us about. There was an OPEC meeting and what that did for oil. Just to remind you all, OPEC is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. We're going to talk about what that did for oil this week. There was a really cool announcement that the CSE made. There was a strategic announcement in a company called Tetra Trust. I'm going to tell you all about that. Pretty innovative stuff. And then we're going to dive into some CSE issuer news. So let's start with market volatility. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, this week was an increase in volatility, and we talked about this. If you go back a few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that there could be a pickup in volatility, and some of the technical tools that we watch were telling us this. And if you look at, kind of where the indexes in North America traded this week, we saw all-time highs. And then, the last couple of days, we've seen big market opens to the downside, including yesterday, and that pushed things to quite an extreme oversold, the short-term oversold condition. And now on Friday, we're seeing things improve a bit. So, one of the things that we kind of looked at and thought was quite interesting was the tick index, which is looking at the number of up stocks and down stocks on a given day. So how many are trading up versus how many are trading down. And you can see that, from the chart that we have here, that it went to, quite an extreme that we've only seen a few times in the last year or two here that got really sold off. So when we think about volatility, obviously it goes both ways, upside and downside. We were starting to see sentiment pushed a little bit to the extreme, and then of course the market just comes in and corrects and spooks everyone again, and that's what we saw yesterday with the sell-off that happened kind of right off the open in the market.
That's quite the chart. And I mean, I don't think it's that surprising that we're starting to finally see a bit of volatility, right?
Yeah, I mean, from a couple of fronts. One is it's been pretty tame here now since really the fall, one. And two is, from a seasonal standpoint, there doesn't tend to be as many participants in the market in the summer. And obviously when you have that, once the direction goes, it can get pushed around a lot easier because there's not as many people involved.
Right, absolutely. And I think people are finally able to leave their houses. So hopefully they're outside and enjoying company of family and friends. There was a sell-off this week. What happened?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing that obviously everyone looks at with that volatility and the sell-off is, kind of why it was happening. And, there wasn't any real hard constructive reasons, but, a few of the ones that sort of really circulated around were, increase in sort of the Delta variant cases. And of course, we're probably all getting really sick of this now. And of course, Pfizer's now saying like, oh, you can get a third shot to, really improve your vaccine rate and your security. But that being said, so that was one that was out there. And then rates is the other. And this is one we find quite fascinating. If you look at the 10-year as an example, the 10-year U.S. Treasury, if you go back to May, it was a concern because it was breaking out. It was kind of in that 170 range, and everyone was talking about, oh, is it going to hit 2%? And it had gone up from 50 basis points or 0.5% back in 2020, and now all of a sudden it was at 170. Inflation was out of control, and we were worried about 2% and what that meant for stocks. And now all of a sudden you see it's broke through that 1.5%. It was trading in the kind of 1.27%. Yesterday, and the concern was, oh my gosh, growth slowing, this isn't good for stocks. And what you saw was a real bifurcation again. When rates were going up, the technology stocks weren't doing very well. And then yesterday, that was probably one of the stronger sectors, is that you saw some of the large cap technology names doing well on lower rates. And you saw, some of the things like financial selling off. So, just the market is really binary right now. It's, sort of one thing or the next. If that's, stay at home or, go out stocks. And then, the other thing is rates. Like, are rates going up? Are rates going down? Is inflation under control? Is inflation not under control? So it's been really volatile on that front.
Now you bring up the vaccines. These pharma companies must be doing quite well right now.
Well, they are. I mean, if you look at his example, like when Pfizer announced, I saw that news today that they're suggesting now that you can get a third booster, and you sort of have to question, what's at stake here for them. Well, they've got a lot of different patents, a lot of drugs that are coming off patent, and so maybe if they can get us all into a regime where we need to get booster shots once or twice a year, they're going to help their sales and help their revenue on that front. So that might be the case. Maybe it's actually deeper and bigger than that. But a lot of what the CDC is saying is that two shots has been acceptable to now.
Time will tell the truth on that one. OPEC had a meeting. What was the meeting about, and what did that do for oil?
Well, OPEC, they have these regular meetings, and of course they try to dictate where the price of oil goes. And what the expectation was is that they were going to try to meet. They were going to meet and come up with some terms on how much extra production they were going to bring into the market. And I guess things didn't go very well. They couldn't agree on what they were doing, and from what I understand, the meeting didn't even continue. And so when that happened, you saw the price of oil sell off. And I mean, it's been pretty volatile as well lately, mostly to the upside. But, when this happens, obviously investors start to worry that means that, without them actually formally agreeing on what they're going to do, there'd be a lot of countries that would, just continue to pump oil. It's obviously at, a high we haven't seen since 2018. And, it's a good way for them to increase revenue. So market got concerned about the fact there was going to be a bunch of supply come into the market, oil pulled back. And so with the market pulling back and oil pulling back, some of the oil stocks had, kind of a big drop. And if you look at, kind of on the shorter term, it was a fairly big drop this week. But, when you pull back the picture and look, okay, where does the oil index in Toronto done this year? Well, year to date, it's, had a phenomenal return. And if you only owned oil stocks in your portfolio, you're probably high-fiving yourself all the way to the bank right now.
High-fiving yourself to the bank. I like that. Oil is such, it has so much power in the way it moves things. So I think the fact that this meeting didn't go well, I mean, that's a big deal, right?
Yes and no. I mean, they'll set their targets and then cheat anyways. So, it's more what the policy is
Right.
than anything else. And, to be honest, like even with what they're doing and with what's happened in the shale, say in the US, where they've been pretty disciplined about not adding extra drilling rigs. Like the drilling numbers are really not that high right now, and they haven't really increased that much considering how much oil's come up. The discipline's really there. So if we do see this restart of the economy and we see, people start to travel and we see, a lot more fuel used and obviously oil used in industry, then the supply demand picture is still going to be pushed out of whack, and there's going to be significantly more demand than there is supply. And that's why we've seen oil move from where it was a year ago, kind of in that $20-$25 range to where it is now, sort of knocking on sub 80, but kind of in the high 70s.
Crazy. Okay, listen, we had some big news at the CSE. The CSE just announced that they did a strategic investment in a company called Tetra Trust. So let me tell you about this company, and then I want to get your opinion on the future of this and what this all means for us. But Tetra Trust is Canada's first qualified custodian for cryptocurrency assets. So this is pretty exciting, and the CSE gets to be a part of this. I know that our CEO, Richard Carlton, is heavily involved. They received their certificate of registration on July 5th. So congrats, Tetra Trust. The core business is to be the custody and storage of cryptocurrency assets, including Bitcoin and other digital assets and tokenized securities. And really the purpose of this is, given the increased popularity of digital assets, there's, an importance to add regulation within the capital markets to create some confidence in the space. Tetra estimates that the current market for crypto custodial services is in the tens of billions of dollars under assets under management. So a pretty massive space. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about the importance of these custodians in this space?
Yeah, I mean, any institutional manager has to hold their assets in a designated custodian, and obviously that has to be someone that is trustworthy, and you can get your assets when you need them, and it's easy to settle. And to date, like, there's not a lot of options for especially for Canadian investment managers on actually having custody of your cryptocurrency at the custodian. And so obviously this is the first of what probably will be more to come, but there's always got to be that trailblazer that decides to do it. And that's great to see, because as we most people suspect, this is a market that's going to be around and continue to grow and become bigger parts of portfolios. And from an institutional standpoint, it's been difficult to actually have a home for those assets where they show up and are under a sort of regular custody roof.
Well, and I think it's really important. I know for myself, I've sat on the fence as far as cryptocurrencies, not to my benefit to sit on the fence, but I think stuff like this will definitely bring kind of the market that has been sitting, or the capital that has been sitting on the fence. It provides a little bit more security, and so hopefully we'll see an infusion in it. So pretty exciting for the CSC. I love to, they've always been innovative. I think there's some amazing partners that have invested in it. So pretty excited to see that play out. So congrats to CSC, congrats to Tetra Trust. And it'll be interesting to watch that play out. We're going to move on to some CSC issuer news. I can't do a week without talking about a celebrity sighting, and this week it's Anthony Hopkins. So I had to talk about it. Our company, the CSC issuer CurrencyWorks, is a blockchain pioneer of NFT and digital payment provider. They've just announced that they've come out with a brand new movie. It's a full feature length film, and it's featuring Anthony Hopkins. This is coming out as an NFT that you'll be able to view on their platform, ViewL platform. It'll be the first direct-to-consumer full-length feature film and entertainment content as an NFT. So just to remind you all, an NFT is a non-fungible token. So this is a digital piece of artwork that you can't recreate, that you can't copy. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The movie itself is called Zero Contact. It was actually, created during the pandemic. It was filmed in over 17 countries, and it was done fully isolated. So it's kind of a neat story as it is, but it'll be the first one that'll go direct to consumers. So I find this interesting because they're starting to, it almost is allowing people to become the producers, or not the producers, but, they'll be able to resell the premiere. They'll be able to distribute it as they see fit. So I wonder, do you think we're going to start seeing more of this? We've talked about NFTs before, and we're starting to see more and more of this come to market. When you're looking at stuff, do you see NFTs, on the rise?
Well, certainly there's been, lots of talk about NFTs this year, and really kind of what they've been, and some of the, big prices that people have paid for them. This is, kind of use case now, which is great to see, right? Where it's the same with, some of the tokens that you saw originally in the cryptocurrency space. They were just issued first, and now you're actually starting to see where they're being applicable. So with the NFTs, that's great to see, right? There's actually an application where, somebody can use it and can, drive business with it. And, I haven't heard of anyone else that's done this exact concept. So great to see. And obviously, it's hats off to them.
Well, I wonder if one day we're going to start seeing, we've got Tetra Trust and it's this custodian for tokenized securities. Maybe it's not that long that you'll be able to go onto the market and buy yourself a movie or digital art or music. We might not be that far from that. It'll be interesting to watch that play out. So before we end off, I wanted to talk about an event that we're doing next week, and then I want to ask you what you think about going into next week. The CSC is out there again building more content, so make sure that you join us on July 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 11 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join us for esports in the capital markets. I was amazed at the lineup that we have joining us of CSC issuers, including Muka Sports, Game On, GameSquare Esports Inc., Alpha Esports Tech, Fans Unite Entertainment, and Fandom Sports Media. They will all be joining us, so make sure that you join us. If you can't join us that day, I'm sure it'll be posted as quickly as possible to our YouTube page. And if you want to know when that gets posted, make sure that you subscribe to CSC TV. I was quite blown away by this, Bruce, because we held, Anil, my colleague, and I, Anil Mall in Vancouver, we held our first esports event. I think it was maybe 2 years ago. I had to learn about it. I didn't know much about the space, and I'm now amazed at how many issuers we have in it. What do you think about the esports space?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's getting, more traction all the time. If you go and sort of look at the numbers from when we were all locked down at the, sort of heart of the pandemic, obviously the numbers of esports just went, completely through the roof. It accelerated it a lot. Now you're seeing, multiple different companies that are into the esports gambling, into esports events. You've seen some big announcements, as an example, the Game Square that you guys have on next week. They just did an interesting deal with Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys. So you're seeing some pretty big, well-heeled people getting into the space for sure.
Pretty exciting. You can register for that event on the csc.com on our events page. Make sure that you go and check it out. Bruce, what do you think about next week? What should we think about?
Well, one of the things that we've been, sort of continually amazed with again this year is the binary nature of the markets. And it's been this growth value, reopening, stay at home story, sort of flip-flopping back and forth. And it looks now like, with where rates are and how they've been driven down, that, again, that could be an opportunity for, what was sort of traditionally thought of as sort of those growth names to reaccelerate, because there's just been move into value. So we're again watching that value growth division between companies and sectors, and really watching where that goes to figure out, if we're actually going to see a longer term trend emerging here, or if it's going to continue to be this binary back and forth, tennis game where we're like, constantly watching, is it growth, is it value, is it growth, is it value, right? So that's what we have our eye on right now.
Game of Frogger.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, thank you so much, Bruce. It was so nice to be back here with you. Of course, your colleague, Jordan Ewell, who joined us a few weeks ago, is amazing, but it's always nice to have you back. Have a wonderful weekend and look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thank you.